Well, now you've hit record, I am.
Okay, here we go.
You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Misa back.
You're listening to Making Tracks. This is episode 226. I'm your co-host, Mark Newbold, and joining me today is a man who many have said has conducted the best on-stage interview since Jerry the King Lawler slapped Andy Kaufman round the face. It's Mark Mulcaster. How you doing, man?
I'm very honoured. I mean, as Martin Keeler said, Mark did host for Best Panel. Don't know which Mark he's talking about.
I don't care. I'll take it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. I was going to say, how have you been and how's your week been? But I saw you yesterday. We've actually just come back from the outer reaches of the galaxy from Admore in New Forest.
We've literally come from the place that he's farthest from, yes.
Pretty much. Definitely when it comes to mobile signal.
What mobile signal?
Exactly.
I have no mobile signal.
I know. But yes, wow, what a day yesterday. I know we talked about it and you posted a lot about it on Fantha Tracks in the run-up, but Amor, the show that was from inspiration to insurrection, a look behind the creation of Vandal with some of the creators on the series. And wow, I don't think anybody's expecting what we got in the end.
No, we were very lucky, the two of us. We hosted between us 6 panels, including the Q&A, which was great fun with all the guests coming up on stage. We did a panel on graphics, set decoration, the creature shop, VFX. You interviewed the executive producer, Luke Hull, about the production design of the show. It was phenomenal. It was a brilliant weekend.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And all I've had today from everybody who was there was just nothing but positive feedback. Because I think for a lot of people who have either maybe been to Farthest From or hadn't been to Farthest From, especially those, weren't quite sure what to expect. And I think probably weren't either, because these things can go one of two ways. But I've got to say, hats off to Dave Tree for pulling it all together, because it was just an absolutely standout day. And hopefully the start of many more.
Let's hope, because there's definitely an audience for it. As you say, everyone was stoked. I think a big indicator of how good the day was, I should say, was that even though everybody had paid in advance and so all of that side of it was dealt with, everyone left after the closing ceremony, which I thought says a lot.
Yeah, I've been to so many events where you get to the end of a day and you still got the auction of that, and it's, there's only about 5 or 6 people left. It's a charity auction. This is not going to be the fundraiser that people are maybe hoping for. I walked away slightly lighter in my pockets, at least. So
you did.
Yeah.
You did well. Yeah. I missed out on the thing I was chasing. I wanted that solo Creature Effects hat, the beanie, and I got outbid. I was heartbroken. But you managed to get a couple of bits, didn't you?
I did. There was a Creature Effects crew cap from 2014, so from The Force Awakens, and I rescued, I think it's fair to say, a crew T-shirt from The Last Jedi. That's a good win.
That's good. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about and more over the coming weeks, but let's get into some news. There has been other Star Wars happenings throughout the galaxy over the last few days. First one of which, Star Wars Starfighter has expanded its cast. They've added Mia Goth to star alongside Ryan Gosling. She's playing a villainous character who's chasing down the nephew of Ryan Gosling's character. So it's Uncle Ryan in this particular film. It starts shooting here in the UK in the autumn. We don't know much more than that. Obviously, Gosling stars, Sean Levy's directing it. Everyone seems very, very excited about this. And I do not know who Mia Goth is. It's a name that's evaded me. I've not seen her in anything else. So, can you shed any light on Mia Goth, or is it just a cool name for you so far?
To be honest, it's a little bit of a cool name, but also like she's got quite a distinctive look. From what I do know, she's a London girl.
British villain in a Star Wars film. Who'd have thought it?
I know, right? Well, her mother was Brazilian and her dad's Canadian, which makes for an interesting kind of look.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm hoping anyway that we see her and she's not just kind of hidden away in like layers upon layers of prosthetics or makeup or even a helmet or a mask. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with Sean Levy film? But it is interesting, isn't it? First time that we've really had a female actor play a villain.
It's about time that was more of a focus and more in the mix. And I also like the thought that we've had lots of stories about fathers, Luke and Vader, and we've had lots of stories about mothers, but now we've got an uncle, and I suppose you can look at Luke and Ben as kind of an uncle story, but this feels very much like it's a focus. So it's a little tweak and a twist. It's a family story, which always adds extra layers to Star Wars. They are pitching this as kind of like a one-off, but I never believe that, because if this comes out and makes 800 million worldwide and it doesn't cost the Earth and everybody's happy, then okay, maybe you're not getting Ryan Gosling back for a Disney Plus series, but hey, maybe you're getting back for a sequel in a couple of years. So it could always be the start of something new.
If you're going to do a one and done standalone film, and at least for mindset is that there isn't going to be a continuation or a sequel, then you're going to get a nicely rounded story, and it's going to have an end, a bit like New Hope did, right? I think that's probably one reason why it is my favourite, because even actually when you get to like the end of Return of the Jedi, kind of still feel like there's like loads of loose threads, but with A New Hope, it just feels like the right natural conclusion to have for that film. It's very easy to then write a sequel after that. Look what happened. We had Empire Strikes Back, and then the rest, as they say, is history. An uncle, I think quite a lot of us can relate to that, being cool uncles or not so cool uncles, depending on what your brother or sister spins to your nephews and nieces and stuff, you know. But hopefully we'll then have that kind of feel. And I'm guessing that this is going to be pitched at a PG kind of level.
Yeah, exactly. To get Gosling in, they're going to want to make it a big hit. He's a multi-generational talent in the sense that people of all ages tend to enjoy his work, and he's been Oscar nominated. He's a big deal. So obviously coming off Barbie, still not that far in his past, which was the biggest film he's been in. Not to say that this will do Barbie numbers, but, you know, you're hoping that it does very comfortably and does well. But yeah, you're right, you never know. So if it connects and catches on and there's enough of a buzz, and it is in the 50th anniversary year as well. So also, I think that says a lot. You know, Lucasfilm and Disney are going to really want to push Star Wars in that anniversary year, half a century of Star Wars, which is insane to even say that out loud. And this is the tentpole movie for that year. This comes out 2 days after the 50th. So if the buzz for Star Wars is as high globally as we hope it will be, very much in everyone's line of sight, and you know that weekend there's a film to see at the cinema, and Ryan Gosling's the star of it, and the guy that directed Deadpool and Wolverine has directed it, maybe that lights the fire.
I'm Brian Herring, BB-8 puppeteer, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. That'll learn you.
So, the first of our interviews for this episode, we head back to Blackburn Rovers Football Club at Ewood Park with Ross Carter. Ross was a Jedi in The Acolyte. We had a chance to talk whilst the convention was going on, looking at a really interesting football match.
So we're at Blackburn Football Club. We are looking out at the pitch. I think the game is still going. Yeah, the referee's blown a whistle at somebody. It's a cracker. I'm here with Ross. How has the weekend been for you?
It's been probably one of the best weekends I've had in my entire career.
You've enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been great. People have been great. The whole event organisation has been fantastic. So, you know, I couldn't have asked for more.
We say this when we talk to people about Fan Fun Day, and anybody who listens to the pod knows this. We love this show. It's such a laid-back, friendly, family-focused show. And here we are, just sitting on a couple of seats in the middle of the convention hall on a Sunday, just having a chat, and nobody's paying us any attention, which is kind of cool because everyone's got their own thing going on. It's just one of those shows.
Yeah, it's great, and that's what I found the most fascinating and rewarding for me is the fact that everyone is so friendly. And so they've just bought into the whole thing. And that's why it's probably survived for so long and actually perpetuated and become such a known thing. People I know who've done this before have said, oh, yeah, you'll have a great time. It's fantastic. It's great. No one has said a bad thing about it. It's been like, oh, yeah, everyone I've spoken to. And that's what I was really looking forward to when I arrived, and it's actually happened.
It's funny, isn't it? You say that, you know, for me being a fan, and I'm sure you were a fan before you were in it.
Oh yeah,
and aware of it and so on. But when you're sort of in and around it all the time, and not that you ever get blasé or you ever get too comfortable or whatever, but it is one of those friendly places, Star Wars fandom, when you'll just see faces you see 2 or 3 times a year at a show, and it's hello mate, the social side of it is so nice, and then when you get sociable folks like yourself who are happy to have a chat, that makes it even better for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is, you've got actors, you know full well, Mark, who do Star Wars that actually don't even like Star Wars or know about it at all. So it's a job for them. When you get people like myself, who I'm not a Star Wars geek, like I'm not calling you a geek if that's offends
I'll take
you.
it. I'll take it. I'll be called worse.
And the nerds who know everything about everything. I'm not one of those. But I've been with it since the start. And I've been invested in the whole ethic of Star Wars. And every time I do Star Wars and I'm go on to a set, it's like a day out for me. So doing The Acolyte, when I did every day on it, every day I was going into a new Star Wars scenario and a new set, new gadgets, every day was like magic. So for me, doing things like this, it's just a dream, because I'm just talking to people who are so interested and maybe didn't get the opportunity to have the information and see the things I did, and I can show them and talk to them about it. And that's what I love about Comic-Cons. I'm not just here to have a pile of photos and a pen and not make eye contact and then see you later. I like to talk to people, and that might be to my detriment that I spend too much time talking to people.
Not at all.
But I love it, because there's people who you tell things about, Acolyte, for example, and they go, oh, wow, did that happen? They didn't know, and they want to know, but there's not that many people out there telling them. And for me to do that, it's just like passing on the magic.
And it's great the way you say that, because wherever you go, whatever, we spoke at Festival of the Force, didn't we? Wherever you're sitting, then there's a room full of people. For somebody, that story you might have told 10 times, it's their first time. So if somebody's always coming to this fresh and new, it's new information to people. However long there'll be people here who are in Jedi and stuff before that have been talking about this for 40 years. And there's still going to be people who I didn't know that.
And the thing is, I don't try to force the story onto people. If they're not interested, I will leave them alone. But if they say, oh, I like The Acolyte, I'd say, have you got time? Would you like to hear my story? Would you like to hear? So they listen, and there's some things they find out and go, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was like, and I can show them little insights to what Star Wars was like, and they love it. And if I can do that and have a great time myself, then it's quids in.
Absolutely. The Acolyte right now, it had the fate that it had, but it just seems to be getting a bit of a head of steam now. It feels like the novels...
Do you want to? I haven't got any real insight.
Go for it.
But I'll give you my gut and my heart opinion. Manny's doing cons.
Yes, he is. He was at Celebration.
He doesn't need to do cons. He's a young actor, upcoming, done a lot of good stuff. And he could just be going and stepping away from something that got a lot of criticism. He could be doing that, but he's not. He's doing cons, and he's talking about it. He's in Manchester in July.
He is, July,
He doesn't need to do that. And he is championing it, and I believe they're waiting for the dust to settle and something's going to emerge. The Dorling Kinsley visual guide for The Acolyte is out in June.
That's right.
And I believe the cover's got a picture of the Stranger's helmet on it. Now, The Acolyte, if you've seen previous publicity, has got all of the Jedi, but this one has got the Stranger's helmet. Now, that's strange to me, but there's a reason. And I've been on forums and I've been talking to people, and I've said, look, watch this space. Something is going to happen. It may not be The Acolyte 2, but it'll definitely be a connection to his character and a progression of it, because people loved it. And he's a lovely guy. I've
not had the good fortune to meet him or interview him.
If you get a chance... I met him obviously in a working environment, and he was a lovely guy. When you're in a con with a conveyor belt of people that the con has provided, it's not so easy to be lovely when you've got to make everyone happy with a signature or a photo. But all I'm getting is reports of how fantastic he is.
I went past the autograph room a couple of 3 times during the course of the convention, and actually saw him at his table more than once, chatting, looking up, engaging.
He does.
So that That bodes
I mean,
well.
This was a story. I mean, I didn't work. I wasn't in the same trailer as him, but I'll tell you what, if it's all right. Of
course.
Just a Manny story. I did some lines for him when Lee Jung-jae wasn't around.
Right.
Off camera, so he could do his, and he was being filmed on. And he was, I was doing my lines. I'm acting next to Manny, and and I did my lines and whatever, and we finished. And it went off, and I went off to the catering or the toilet.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, the rest of my colleagues said, "Oh, Manny's just been round here looking for you. He just wanted to say thank you for what you did on set."
Cool.
So he doesn't need to, because actors normally just go to their trailer and they just go and sit there and you don't see him. He physically came round to find me in the studio somewhere to say thanks, because he appreciated what I'd done. And that's the type of guy he is. And that's what I try to tell people when I see them, that he's such a good guy. And you see his character on the screen, what he does to Jedi. He's not that in real life.
No, thank goodness.
That's a little story.
But what a great champion to have for not only for Star Wars, but specifically for the Acolyte. If he's going to bat, like you say, he was in The Good Place, which is one of my favourite shows ever.
Yeah.
And then turns up in the Acolyte and was like standout character in that sense. People remember that big episode when he takes all the Jedi out.
Yeah.
For him to be the one that's there waving the flag.
All I say is watch this space.
Watch this space.
It's going to happen. Something is.
Something better happen.
Yeah.
There's enough of a groundswell. Outside of Star Wars, what are the stuff we've got going on at the moment?
I'm filming, and if you didn't know, we sign agreements to say we can't really talk about what we're filming, but a lot of exciting projects coming up in the industry anyway. I'm a big sci-fi fantasy fan, and a lot of that is happening.
Brilliant.
So, I can say things that are happening, even though I'm not saying I'm doing them.
Sure.
But, you've got Supergirl going on.
Yeah.
You've got Ahsoka's filming season 2 right now. That's starting. I'm hearing that the new Spider-Man's starting off. Batman later in the year. They've just done Fantastic Four.
Yep.
So we're in for a good year in terms of production starting. Obviously, they won't be out till Fantastic Four will be, but there's lots of things going on, and we're involved here and there, but I can't say anything that could incriminate me.
No, we do not want to do that. We do not want to do that. But it's a good sign to be a genre fan, isn't it? With all the sci-fi, fantasy, superhero stuff.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's just everything's happening.
Brilliant.
Everything.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad we got to catch up again.
Yes, Mark.
Not in front of a crowd of people, just you and me.
I don't mind the crowds. No, I love the.
I didn't even see them. I was just looking at you, mate.
Of course. I was looking at you too, but I love a live audience. I love a bit of a banter. It's great. It's great. But thank you so much.
My pleasure.
My name is Dean Charles Chapman, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So Stephen Colbert, he's had some really great Star Wars guests on the show recently. He had Mark Hamill on last week, talking all things Star Wars, and also joining him the night after was Tony Gilroy, obviously talking about season 2 of Andor. We're heading towards award season. If that show doesn't get a buttload of gold, I will be absolutely amazed. But one of the things that Tony did say as he was talking about the show was how he believes that one of the benefits of Andor is that you don't necessarily have to know anything about Star Wars to watch it, which is a very good point, because it is, as we've said on this show numerous times, very much in the vein of a thriller. The spycraft is something I know that attracts you as a Bond fan, and there's many other elements of the show that work above and beyond it being specifically a Star Wars show. But on that topic, my question to you, Mark, is do you think after 48 years of Star Wars that a Star Wars show necessitates the need to have watched previous Star Wars, or do you think it works best that you don't have to have watched any Star Wars? Is Andor an outlier in that sense, given that Filoni likes to mix things and throw back to things and be influenced by stuff? What do you think works in 2025? Do you think Star Wars shows need a knowledge of Star Wars, or is Star Wars just everywhere and it's kind of intrinsically there for the viewer?
Oh, do you know what? It's kind of a hard question. So, referencing what we just talked about, I think something like maybe Starfighter will be a very accessible entry point into the franchise. And I even thought about with Force Awakens. I think they did a pretty good job of skirting around what you needed to know without having loads of exposition. Andor, if you've literally lived in a cave and you haven't seen hide nor hair of Star Wars, and literally you happen to then be in a hotel and you put on Disney Plus and you're like, oh, I don't know what to watch. I'm going to start with letter A, so I'm going to watch Andor. You could watch that whole series and get enough out of it to explain it. But I think you're going to be left with a ton of questions. It is difficult because obviously we know what we know and we can't forget that. So it's very difficult for us to kind of take a step back. And it's a bit like the criticism that we also had with Ahsoka. It felt like Heine needed to really have invested a bit more time in Rebels to really get the most out of that show. And I think on bigger macro level, yeah, I think you probably could just about get away with knowing what's going on. I think the whole Imperial subplot, so if BP get into that show, I think the harder it is to say that sentiment is correct. But I think you could watch it if you had a partner who had never watched Star Wars, but you had. I think you two could quite easily watch it, and I think you'd get enough out of that show because it's so grounded in reality. It's such a character-driven series. You'll be able to watch it and enjoy it. You won't necessarily join the dots so much. Especially, I think, in season 2, because I know we get that reveal at the end of season 1 of what they're making in Narkina 5 is actually being used on the Death Star. But I think you'd have to be pretty savvy to join those dots of like what you saw at the end of season 1 is actually that Emperor's energy weapon. That's probably the only bit. But like for the rest of it, for what Andor's going through, what Bix is going through, absolutely, I think you could watch it. And I think that's what makes good Star Wars, is that actually, irrespective of plonking the people down in the galaxy, it's like actually those stories that we relate to, they're the ones that actually mean the most to us. And I think that's what makes Star Wars successful in the long run.
When you watch Star Wars as a fan of Star Wars and you live in and around it like we do, and I know not everybody sits down like we do and talks about it every week on the show, but nevertheless, we're at shows and conventions and talking to folks and it's coming to us all the time, that there's probably things that are almost subliminally coming to us that we kind of pick up on that we don't know we're picking up on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas if you're a casual Star Wars fan and you kind of know who Darth Vader is and you sort of recognise an X-Wing, it's just the big hitters in the zeitgeist that you get because Star Wars is always there. When you watch something like Andor, if you can get beyond that first bit of, okay, it's Star Wars Andor, okay, it's a Star Wars thing, and you're a casual viewer, so you might be expecting Obi-Wan Kenobi comes slashing in with a lightsaber. Where's Darth Vader? Where's the TIE fighter dogfight with the X-Wing and all that sort of stuff? And you suddenly realise, actually, no, like you just said, it's more boots on the ground than that. And then the intrigue starts to build and the background of what's this thing that's being built that everyone's talking about. And it's a prequel to this Rogue One thing, and I'm not quite sure what that is. Yeah. And people start to dig into it a little bit. Maybe Tony's overselling it a shade in the sense that, don't you think that you do sort of have to know Star Wars just enough that it's not a distraction to a casual viewer? But if you're a fan of Star Wars, like we are, and millions of others clearly are, and it's a growing movement, the Andor fandom every day because it's being discovered on Disney Plus, that you would then want to go and watch that season 2 episode of Rebels Secret Cargo to find out what Mon Mothma's other speech was. Or you might want to divert and think, I'm going to watch Rogue One. And then watching the original Star Wars makes way more sense.
I suppose it's one of those things. I think on some levels, it's something that I think we talk about, and I know I've talked about with some of cast and crew and creatives over the years that we've interviewed. Where is that balance? And sometimes I think you've got to find that balance to allow it to be accessible. And I think sometimes also you just unapologetically go, well, look, we can't explain everything. Otherwise you get a very
Basil exposition type stuff.
Totally right. It's always going to be a difficult balance to find. And also it's going to be very difficult to kind of know if you're getting it right or not until you get in front of an audience, which of course is quite scary.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
So recently, speaking on NPR show Fresh Air, Mark Hamill remembered some very, very useful information that Carrie Fisher gave him about being Luke Skywalker. This is what Mark had to say. He said, Carrie, came to see a Broadway show of mine, and in the playbill, in my bio, I listed all my theatre credits, and at the end it said, he's also known for a series of popular space movies. And she goes, what's the deal? How come we don't mention Star Wars? And I said, well, I want to show that I have a resume that includes extensive theatre credits. And she said, hey, get over yourself. You Luke Skywalker, I'm Princess Leia, embrace it. And I kind of saw what she meant, because you say to yourself, what territory do I occupy that no one else does? So she was someone that sort of put it into perspective for me. So when you look back, Hamill definitely struggled more than probably anybody else in that film with being Luke Skywalker. He really did make that big move to hitting Broadway and doing very, very different work. And of course, we know he moves into voice acting to tremendous success and kind of becomes a massive hero within the nerd space, if you like. And Harrison goes and does more indie and all the great stuff that he did, Oscar nominations and such. And Carrie moves on to do her writing career and just being Carrie Fisher, which was more than enough for all of us. But what do you think of that? The fact that it took Carrie to be the one that sort of sits down with her space brother and says, get over yourself. Why aren't you owning this? And this, we've got to say, is in the mid-80s, and it felt very much like he spent most of the 90s not wanting to acknowledge being Luke Skywalker at all.
It's kind of really then when his voice acting career really takes off when you think about it. But I kind of get it. It's a blessing and a curse of any actor who's recognisable with one franchise. I mean, Sean Connery for the rest of his life was trying to distance himself from James Bond. That never really happened. I guess that is unfortunately the way it is. The difference is that people like Mark really happening for the first time. Yes, actors are being associated with maybe one or two roles, but never on such an extreme level. He couldn't go anywhere and talk about Amadeus and Elephant Man without somebody going, oh, Luke Skywalker. Daniel Craig did it. He was in the midst of being Bond and he wants to do stage. He wants to still be taken, quote unquote, seriously as an actor. Does, being on stage demand more than being an actor? It's a different type of acting. It's a different type of challenge, isn't it?
It is. But don't you think, if you look at the three of them as actors, Mark Harrison and Carrie,
yeah.
Carrie was a personality, and
yes.
I don't think Carrie was ever going to win Best Actress Oscar. So I think that what she did as Leia was perfect, and it was perfect casting, and she was perfectly casted in The Blues Brothers and stuff like that. And she was great in the stuff that she would go on to do as the supporting actress. Yeah, Drop Dead Fred, yeah. Or When Harry Met Sally, or The Burbs. Yeah. That was her, and her real talent was the writing and the wit. And so she understood that Leia was a gift for her, and she made the very, very most of it. Now, Harrison Ford, you mentioned Sean Connery. Sean Connery and Harrison Ford are movie stars. They're both great actors, but you never forget that you're watching Sean Connery or Harrison Ford, and there's a very elite level of actors where the actor will always dominate the role. But Mark Hamill, who'd done stuff before, he was an aspiring young actor who gets the role of Luke. He's George on screen, essentially, isn't he? Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker. That's basically what George said. And so you can see that he wanted to take that talent he'd got as an actor, especially a young actor, and parlay that into other stuff. And so seeing him want to get away from the Luke Skywalker character, especially when George was very, very vocal about there's not going to be any more Star Wars. It's not like Mark could go, well, I'm going to do episode 7 in 1992. It's no big deal. I can fall back on that if I want to. In the way that Harrison kind of always knew that if he really wanted to do another indie, and him and George and Steven Spielberg sat down and threw the ideas around with, I don't know, in the 90s, it was Frank Darabont was the guy, wasn't it? If they'd have really, really wanted to make it happen, if Jurassic hadn't have come along in 93 and Schindler's straight after, maybe we would have had indie in the 90s that we never quite got. There were other options for Harrison, and careers ebb and flow, the choices that actors make, but that choice was taken away from Mark because there wasn't going to be any more Star Wars.
Because of that point, you think, at that point, we're in the dark times, Return of Jedi's been and gone, Power of the Force figures have gone off of the pegs and stuff, and nothing being made. You're only as good as your last production you worked on. For such a young actor, I bet he probably didn't even want to have Star Wars mentioned at all. And maybe it was actually the theatre people were like, oh, actually, it might be good for marketing. And he might have preferred to be like, oh, I don't know, just can you not mention just like Corvette Summer. So trying to move on, he's not necessarily distancing himself and being embarrassed for what he worked on the trilogy. It's just a case of he's kind of saying, hey, there's more to me than Luke be a Jedi tonight and all that kind of stuff, so...
This is Susanna Malik from Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and this is Fantha Tracks. Is it Fantha Tracks? I'm blind, I couldn't read it. Fantha. I'm
still going to use that.
Are you? Then use it. Even like this dumb broad can't speak English.
So our second interview today from Star Wars Fan Fun Day back in May at Blackburn Rovers Football Club. It's myself and Felice Fairweather. Felice you will have seen in the opening scenes of episode 1 of The Acolyte. So here's myself and Felice talking all about The Acolyte and all sorts of other stuff here on Making Tracks.
So we are here at Blackburn Rovers Football Club and we are Well, sort of looking over my shoulder at the football pitch. I think there's a game still going on. How has the day been for you? Or the weekend, because we had the meal last night.
It has been a fantastic weekend. I had a lovely meal last night, lovely 3-course meal with lovely guests sitting with us as well at the table. It's fantastic.
Had you done an event like that before? Because the guys do that every time they do a Fan Fun Day. It's always great fun. It's busy and there's loads going on. It's a high energy. Everyone's just chit-chatting like friends. Have you done an event quite like that before?
I haven't done a dinner event like that with regards to cons, but last night was fantastic. And no, if they have me back, I'd come back.
I'm sure they will.
Without a doubt.
I'm sure they will. And what about today?
Really
because,
good.
again, it's a lovely room. There's some great dealers here. Everyone's just bobbling around and enjoying the day. What have you made of that?
Everyone has been absolutely fantastic, and we've had a lot of interest in the Acolyte today.
Yes.
As we all know, there's been mixed reviews on the Acolyte, but we've had a lot of positivity today, so
Good.
that's always good.
I think Star Wars is one of those weird things. I was talking to Carol Christina earlier, and obviously she was in Phantom Menace, and when that came out, that had all the negativity in the world, and yet time has been rightly kind to that film to the point where now it's much more better regarded, and I think, as a fan, that Acolyte's going to be one of those projects, because as you move away from that time period, it'll be even more unique in that there's nothing bumping up to it, and there's nothing running directly off the back of it. And the next thing is Phantom Menace, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Do you feel that as somebody who was in the show?
It feels to me like there's some hype building up, so I'm really hoping that there's going to be a second season, even though, we there isn't at the moment, but with the hype that's building up, there's a book coming out, I believe, in June.
Yeah.
One of the actors is coming over. There's a little bit of hype building up, so with a bit of luck, I think we might hopefully get
fingers
a second
crossed,
season.
Fingers crossed, because enough people want to see it. Definitely enough people want to see
100%.
it. When the role came to you, did you know that you were up for a Star Wars project?
Yes, I did know it was.
Okay.
I did know it was Star Wars. So I didn't know what my character would be until I got there.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the set and the costume, it was mind blowing. Really, it was fantastic.
It's a heck of a set as well. It's a beautiful location.
Yeah, the scene I was in was the Lumituski noodle shop scene. I'm not going to give it. I don't want to do spoilers in case people haven't seen it.
No.
But there was a big action stunt scene in that episode. So it was really a great scene to be a part of.
And were you a Star Wars fan before you got the role?
No, I wasn't actually. But now I've really got myself fully immersed into Star Wars. I've watched all the episodes, all the films, and absolutely love it now.
Have you enjoyed that? Because you come into a role, you're an actor, so you come into a role and then you learn, obviously, it's Star Wars, which obviously is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a new show, The Acolyte. And, okay, the fate of it at the moment is what it is, but I think time's going to be kind to it. And then, you start watching more, reading more, you're aware of the book.
Yeah.
You know these things. You start to get into this world, which we're sitting right in the middle of right now. I know you've done Detective Pikachu, for example, and that's a big world as well. Anything to do with that is a big deal. So is it interesting being sort of in and around this world and soaking it up, and all these people that are so involved? Is that quite interesting to you?
Yeah, it's been really good actually. It's like there's such a huge fan base for this, and the amount of Facebook groups I've been added into.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to get fully involved and meet the fans and see their appreciation for the films, for the series. I've met some amazing people. I've met some wonderful people today, but I did my first con back in December of last year.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a few since then, and it's been varied. I've done Star Wars cons, I have done, multi-genre cons, and I've also done a few Pokemon events as well. So a lot of card conventions. So it's been a real mix, but everyone I've ever met has been absolutely, amazing.
You mentioned
really
Pokemon, that's a
friendly.
big deal.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who runs a toy shop, and he sells above and beyond everything else. It's Lego and Pokemon.
Yeah.
They're the two things that sell like crazy. Being involved in that world as well, that must be fascinating, because that's something that's been around for decades, just like Star Wars, and it's a continuously evolving thing. There's always something new coming out. That must be an interesting place to be as well.
Yeah, I did a card con down in Cardiff a couple of months back, and the value of some of the cards is absolutely unbelievable, like thousands and thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And so, it's really nice when people ask me to sign their Pikachu cards or their photographs. So, it's been fantastic. It's been a really good 6 months that I've been doing this. So, and I've got a few more lined up in the future.
I was going to ask that. What's in the future? Yeah.
Well, I've got one that I'm doing in London which is a charity event called Maggie's.
Yep.
I believe that's on the 8th of June. On the Saturday, they've got James Bond and horror actors.
Nice.
And then on the Sunday, it's a big Star Wars event and Doctor Who, I believe. So that should be a nice event to go to as well.
Yeah. And in terms of work, in terms of career, what's lined up at the moment?
I'm making a small appearance in the new Fantastic Four film.
High five.
Thank you.
See, I knew you were a cool person.
So you'll see me in the trailer. I'll show you the picture later
Brilliant.
on. So yeah, that will be coming out, I believe, in July.
Yep.
And most recently, I've made an appearance in Black Mirror, which is something I really, a series I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of those.
I've not watched the latest season, so we were chewing through stuff. You know how it is with streamers. There's a million things. We're chewing through other stuff, so Black Mirror's on the list. So
yeah, Black Mirror, season 7, episode 3.
Episode 3.
It's all shot in black and white, so it's different. It's really cool. So yeah, definitely check that one out.
Definitely. Brilliant. Well, thanks for this. I'm really glad we got to talk.
Yeah, and, it's really lovely to finally meet you as well.
I know.
I feel like we know each other. You know?
I know, it's weird, isn't it? You see each other online and then you actually meet. Give us a hug.
I will, of course. Oh, lovely to see you.
And you.
Well, there's a couple of brilliant interviews in this week's episode. So thank you, Mark, for taking the time to go up to Blackburn and hanging out with those lovely people. But that is all we have got time for today. But if you have a listener's question, a comment, or a thought or theory, Mr. Newbold can tell you how you can get in touch.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fanthatracks TV and Fanthatracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fanthatracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fanthatracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news. And that's me done for this episode.
Brilliant. And no one will ever know what we're laughing about. Anyhow, thank you very much, mate. It's been good to spend the weekend with you as always. We'll do it again next week, no doubt. So until then, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fanthatracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.